Question. So, can you tell me about, yesterday you were telling me about when Grandpa Dave had built his house. Can you tell me about that again?
Oh yeah, yeah. He wasn't working at the time, and we needed a place to stay, and he bought this lot in the valley. I guess it's Encino, right off of Ventura Boulevard, a street called Eureka, and he built it himself. By that I mean my dad was not very handy with tools of any kind, couldn't do anything, but he was smart enough to hire a man who could do everything. So he bought all the stuff, and the man drew up plans, and my dad built the whole house together. And it was maybe 3 or 4 bedrooms, and it was very nice. A great area, great place.
And how long did you live there?
I'm not sure how long we lived there. Moved all the time I was going to UCLA, and I went to UCLA for 9 years. They were there, and sometime after that I left UCLA in 1959, and I think they sold that house earlier. They sold that house, Mark was killed there, and they sold that house right after Mark was run over in front of the house. Yeah. Up until then, it was a great house. My dad even put in a pool so that Mark could come over and swim, and the whole family, everybody, would come over every Sunday. And Mom would cook for everybody, and everybody went swimming and had a big feast together. Whole family, Elaine and Helen and their family, and all of the what we called relatives would come over to that house every Sunday. And so did I, no matter where I was, every Sunday.
Great, thank you.
My mom was very good with the kids, and our house was the open house. All the kids in the neighborhood played at my house. We played marbles a lot. The kids don't play marbles now, but we played marbles every day, and we'd play outside in the dirt. We'd draw a big circle and play marbles outside. Even when it was wet, we'd play outside, in a little bit of mud. It was harder, but we played. And when it was snowing and we couldn't play outside, my mom drew a marble thing in the living room on the rug, with chalk, so that we could play marbles in the house. Yeah, she was a very good mom.
Okay, so tell me about your father.
My father was a very, very sweet man, and very kind, and he would give anybody the shirt off of his back. He was just that way. And I was his little girl, and if I had said I wanted a star, he'd find a really tall ladder. And very, very, very sweet man. He died too young. He was only, I think, 61 when he died.
Okay.
Mom always had arthritis, and they thought it would be better for her to live in a warm climate. So as soon as the war was over...
World War II.
World War II, yeah. My dad picked up everything, and we moved to California. Before we moved, my mom and dad went out to Los Angeles, and they had friends here. They had their family. Uncle Sam and Ida lived here, and the Liebermans lived here, and Rose Wayne and her husband lived here. And so they came out to California and found an apartment. And in those days, rent was restricted and apartments were difficult to get. And I know my dad paid $1,000 under the table to get that apartment. And we lived there until, and I went to school the last part of junior high from that apartment, and then we moved out to the valley, the house that my dad built.
Okay.
my cousin Walter, my brother, and I were like 3 peas in a pod. When we were little and we were living in Cleveland, we had, Bill and I slept on what they called a sun porch. We had these little twin beds pushed together. It wasn't very big. And Walt and my brother and I would play Tarzan. Of course, Bill was Tarzan. Walt was Boy. And who was I? What's the left
Jane.
name? Jane. That's me, Jane. And we jumped. We had 4-poster beds, and we jump on the mattresses and jump from one poster to the other. We had a good time. And then when we moved to Cleveland, I think Walt really missed us so much that he came out and lived here for, I don't remember how long it was, but it was at least a year.
When you moved to LA.
When we moved to California, we moved to LA, he missed us. And then I think he went back in maybe when he was starting high school or something. I'm not real sure about when, but yeah, the 3 of us were like I said, 3 little peas in a pod.
Again?
Okay. When we were little, I don't know how old we were, probably 8, 9 years old. My mom and dad went to some beach place, and we stayed alone, of course. And when they came back, they brought 3 turtles, one for me and one for Walter and one for Sandra. And we named them after our first initials, Winky, Blinky, and Stinky. And the turtles were all at our house. And one day, when I was out watching the turtles, we always thought they were boy turtles, but Blinky laid an egg. And I ran over to Walter's house and said, Blinky laid an egg. And when I came back, there were 2 eggs. And I ran over again and said, Blinky laid another egg. And in all total, Blinky laid 6 eggs. And every time she laid an egg, I ran over and told Walt. And that was a great time with our turtles. And Sandra will remember that. There were no freeways in the latter 40s. We moved out to California right after the war, so we came here about 1945. And there were no highways. But there was this great place called Knott's Berry Farm, which seemed very, very far away. And we would make a pilgrimage on Sunday to Knott's Berry Farm, and the whole family would go. And the big thing there was a chicken dinner, mashed potatoes, and everything served family style. Everything just put on the table. And then they had rolls and their special blueberry, boysenberry jelly or jam, whatever it was. And it would take us, it seemed, all morning to drive there. And then there would always be such a crowd that we would have to wait an hour or 2 before we could get our table. And we'd all be starving by then. And we'd finally get our table and everybody would eat and have a great time. And this was a big family affair. All the Lieberman and Elaine and Helen's family and everybody went. And then after we'd eat, it was a big trek for it seemed a couple hours driving back. But it was a great Sunday for all of us.
Okay, so can you tell me about some memories of Grandma and Grandpa?
I have a million memories of Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa was my favorite. I was Nancy with the laughing face, and he gave me more cream cheese than he gave everybody else on my bagel. But anyway, Grandma, first of all, we're here in the library. My grandmother loves books. She loves to read books. Happy birthday, Grandma. Happy 100th birthday. Grandma and Grandpa, as you remember, because you were there too, always had a pool. And since we were little kids, we always swam. We went over there on Sundays. Grandma always had little jelly candies for us. Grandpa always had bagels, and they made us, do you remember the chocolate phosphates? They put chocolate syrup in a cup, and then seltzer water and milk. Do you remember that, Brandon?
I don't remember the chocolate syrup stuff.
I thought it was so good. Anyway, they spoiled us with food. Grandma always worked her whole life. She was a hard worker. She saved her money. She saved everything else as well. She loved to pack things. She didn't like to throw anything away. I have so many memories of Grandma. Of course, I'm her favorite grandchild. So we used to go to Grandma and Grandpa's on the weekends, and we used to swim like 6, 7, 8, 9 hours during the day. And then Grandma and Grandpa would watch us go down and get the drain and bring it up. And they'd go, and then we'd put it back down, and we'd do that for hours and hours and hours. And also we'd play Marco Polo, and we'd get wild, and we'd eat. And I was going to say something about Grandma.
When Grandma was, should I say Grandma or Aunt Lil?
Sure.
Used to come to my house every Monday for dinner, and we loved having her, and she loved coming, and we always had a good time. And I remember when she was a crossing guard, and we moved, so we stopped the traditional dinners on Monday night. But she's a special person, and she's my father's sister, and she's a lovely lady.
And then sometimes I used to sit on the couch with Grandma, and I used to watch her knit, and she taught me how to needlepoint, and she taught me how to crochet, and I crocheted like a little rug, and I just used to ask her about her patterns, and she used to bead things, and I remember hours and hours and hours sitting and watching her do her beading and her tiles, and she used to explain what she was doing, and she would create things. It was amazing. And also she would tell us stories of when she was a kid, and she used to play kickball or handball, and that's how she got Grandpa, because Grandpa fell in love with her because she could, with the stick ball, she could actually do a home run, but most girls couldn't. So Grandpa thought that was really cool, and then he asked her out, and then of course they got married, and that's how we're all here.